Is Tesla really going to build a factory in Texas? Texas, the state that historically has been working most of the time against the green energy, electric cars, Tesla in particular. But the other day, Elon Musk has tweeted out a little survey saying, Giga Texas? And 80% of his followers said, hell yeah. Now, obviously, his followers most of the time will agree with almost anything that he will propose. However, is this really a good idea? To help me answer that question, I'm going to be joined by Eli Burton of My Tesla Adventure for our weekly segment that we call Supercharged with Eli Burton. As you know, he is joined by a few new contributors this year, a few monthly contributors that include this guy, Sandy Monroe, one of the biggest manufacturer gurus in the world. So really honored to have the CEO of Faraday Future, Karsten Breinfeld, and Rich Rebuilds, who you probably know from one of the biggest Tesla related channels called Rich Rebuilds. Now, if this doesn't make you subscribe to this channel, I don't know what will, but this is a good time to remind you to click on that subscriber button. And if you already have, then the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything moving forward. All right, so before I bring in Eli for this conversation, you know, I kind of have I'm 50-50 on this. On one hand, the state of Texas, just like I said, has worked and continues to work against Tesla, green energy, electric cars, and so forth. But on another hand, hey, you know, what about the Trojan Horse? You know, you kind of put it in there, people get jobs and so forth, and maybe they kind of fall in love with the company. After all, they are bringing the Cybertruck to market, so that's something else to think about. So I feel like there are arguments on both ends. And by the way, a quick reminder before we move any further that this video and this channel is sponsored by Climate Exchange. Only a few more days left until their huge annual lottery. Only 4,000 tickets are being sold and only few are left. If you are the winner, you'll be able to pick out any Tesla you want up to $195,000 in value. And even if you don't, you'll be donating to a great cause. Climate Exchange is a great organization, so go to carbonraffle.org to get your ticket today. All right, without further ado, let's talk to Eli. Eli, what do you think about this idea, Gigafactory in Texas?
So when I saw that tweet initially, at first I thought it might have been a joke, which is funny because that was a lot of people's reaction to when they first saw the Cybertruck too.
True.
Yeah, I still am not entirely sure if he's serious or not. I mean, we do know that Tesla does have a footprint in Texas, in Austin, and that is with their autopilot development facility. So they have a team that works on, I believe, the autopilot chips is in Austin. So they do have some employees there, but that's very different than going all in and building a gigafactory. So I'm still kind of a bit taken aback because, you know, I know one of the big plans for Elon and his global expansion is to have a gigafactory on every continent. So doubling up with a second one on the US seems odd until I started thinking about that. Wait a minute. They're running out of space where to develop cars in their existing factories. And if they're going to roll out the Semi, the Cybertruck, and the Roadster, they're going to need a new facility on the mainland of US if they're going to continue to ship out these cars at the volumes that they want to. So maybe Texas does make sense.
All right. Well, okay. So there are a couple of things. Before we talk about logistics, where, you know, cars and trucks should be produced, let's just talk about just in general, you know, Texas, you know, why don't you update us? Where are we at with Texas and what happened with Tesla sales in Texas, just as far as Tesla is concerned?
And this is one of the things that on its nose makes Texas seem so odd is Texas has been fighting the state legislature for the ability to sell their cars to direct to consumers out of stores and not have to go the dealership model. And they've lost that fight. They just gave it up and said it wasn't worth it. They're just going to continue online like they have because the Texas, the association, the influence that's representing the car dealerships there is so powerful that state legislators did not clear the way for Tesla.
Right. So, okay, so that's not really a friendly territory. Historically also, you know, Texas politics and usually has been against the green energy. I mean, it is an oil state, which, you know, kind of makes sense. Now, I know that they have made pretty good progress in terms of wind energy and so forth. And, you know, Fully Charged just highlighted their state ahead of their recent event. That's actually one of people asking me why I didn't go to Fully Charged. I did not want to contribute to an event that's contributing to economy of the state that's working against us. That was my reason for not going. Is this a good enough reason for Tesla not creating a gigafactory there?
If Tesla's going to go there, I can't imagine them not leveraging that to say, okay, Texas, do you want these jobs? Make this right. Because Tesla, I do not think Tesla should build a gigafactory there unless the legislator changes their position and allows Tesla to sell their vehicles there. Because if they don't, Tesla should take their factory and the jobs to another state that's going to welcome them with open arms. So that's a conflict, that's an issue there that I think really does need to be resolved before it would make sense to build a factory there.
All right, but let me play kind of a devil's advocate. Yes, Texas is a tough state to get through here, and it will take a while to change the mentality in politics, but isn't the best way of doing it is kind of essentially create a Trojan horse? Because here's why it is probably one of the best examples of Trojan horses here is because, you know, you build a factory, you get 10,000 jobs, you create jobs, and people who work at the factory, their families, they kind of automatically become fans, right? Because they're building this amazing cars. Now they actually see them and drive them, they fall in love with them. They kind of create thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands of fans just around the workforce, and it kind of starts, you know, expanding the publicity, the media, and so forth, and you kind of win the state over. What do you think about that approach?
I think it's a very interesting way to go, especially if they go and develop the Cybertruck there, because that's a vehicle that all its design is very much from the future and may not necessarily strike a chord with that audience. The utility of that truck is absolutely insane, and it may be a great way to, you know, use that location as the Trojan horse for both that car, but also to further push electric and sustainable transit. So no, that's actually not a bad strategy at all. I still think that for the economic value that Tesla has serious leverage that they can push on, that they should be able to force the state to come around to allowing them sell if they're going to bring these jobs. But nonetheless, I do see the value in helping drive the social change. Now, it's one of the things that's interesting about Texas for being a very large oil-driven state. They do also produce a fair amount of clean energy as well. So they're actually the world's 5th largest producer of, I believe it's wind energy. And they're actually not near as far behind in the US in general when it comes to clean energy. They're about 22nd. They're about in the middle of the pack, which I find pretty surprising for a state that, as you highlighted in some of our previous conversations, their politicians come out of this state are all very much Republican and are usually very active fighters against clean energy, against tax credits, investing in clean energy. They're usually very much on the other side of this conversation entirely. So it's causing a little bit of dissonance for me to see that internally the state is actually doing some things and making some progress while its politicians on a national scale are trying to roll back emission standards.
All right, now let's talk about something else. Does Tesla really need a factory in Texas? Now, some people say, you know, well, you know, it's gonna give it a you know, better access to Midwest because, you know, if you're gonna start producing Cybertruck there, for example, then it's gonna, you know, deliveries into Midwest and Texas and so forth is gonna be easier. But then, of course, deliveries to California and New York will be, well, specifically California is going to be much harder than from California to California. Does Tesla really need an extra factory? I mean, they just built one in Shanghai. Now, obviously, it's going to be servicing China. They're building one in Berlin, so they're going to be servicing Europe. That will take some pressure off of the Fremont factory that's still growing. So that should definitely ease up the supply of cars and obviously parts for the United States. Does Tesla need a factory anywhere else in the United States, period?
So if they do need another factory in the United States, and I think they may very well with the added car lines that are coming online, and also the further battery production, they're going to have to drive up. So I think they may possibly need space. But let's say if they're looking at it from a standpoint of we want to diversify where we manufacture these cars to just further save money in transit, for example. That we want these cars to be closer to destinations so we can get them to our customers faster, spend less money transporting them, et cetera, et cetera. Texas is an interesting choice because where you want to set up your factories, if you're Tesla, is as close as you can to population centers, right? Because higher density of populations means there's going to be more customers who are buying your cars. And the way population is spread across the US, it's very much lined up on the East Coast and the West Coast, and you do have the state in the middle that has a very high amount of population, that's Texas, but Texas is surrounded by a whole bunch of states that have a fraction of the population that they do. So although a factory in Texas, you could serve the Texas market, it's really not super close to the high density population areas in the East Coast, and obviously the West Coast is already served by Fremont. So from like a strategic location standpoint, unless there's something I don't know about, transport routes coming from ports that align up with Texas or something like that, I don't quite understand the regional significance of why Texas would at all be an ideal state for Tesla.
Yeah, I mean neither. Again, I don't see them producing, half Model 3s for the United States in Fremont factory, half of the Model 3s for the rest of the country in Texas. It just doesn't really make sense. Transportation is relatively cheap. They have solved problems of transportation by buying some of the transportation companies. So it doesn't make much sense. So why do you think Elon is teasing us with this? And how serious do you think he is?
I don't know. I mean, the fact that he's like, it doesn't seem like something that would be a joke because it's not funny. So maybe it's a bad joke, but again, I don't entirely get it. I really don't. I mean, we know that, he's out there right now for doing some Starship job day stuff. I don't know. I was actually really surprised by this. And this is one of the things that, like, I'm not necessarily hoping they go through with. Again, I obviously do not understand the full strategic picture. That if they're going to make this investment, there has to be more reasons why. And this is something that I think if he doesn't answer between now and the next earning call is going to be a major point of interest.
That's true. And I got to tell you, he has been tweeting some weird stuff lately, not in a bad way.
The memes have been...
Yeah, but I mean, I'm awake till about 3 or so. I work till about 3 in the morning or so on this channel, and I receive them live, and I see people even bigger, some of the biggest fans being confused by some of the tweets. So I'm just hoping that it's one of them, because I kind of agree with you. There's no reason to build an extra Gigafactory right now, especially with Shanghai and Berlin coming up and Fremont still expanding. And by the way, they still have plenty of space in the first Gigafactory in Nevada. That one is not fully operational, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so I don't exactly know the status anymore of how much of that facility is used or not. I remember there being rumors early on that Model Y was going to be there, and then it wasn't. Then Model Y is now actually happening at Fremont. So my assumption would be that there is still some amount of space, but I haven't heard them really comment on that in quite a long time.
All right. Well, we'll probably find out whether or not he's joking, because usually when he's not, things happen pretty quickly. So let's hope that's the case. Hey man, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. I know I missed you at the Fully Charged, and I know you have already done yet another event with EVs and T's in Florida. So, but I'm hoping to see you in person pretty soon. Other than that, have a great week, and I will see you here next Sunday.
Yeah, let's hang out the next couple of weeks, or at the very least for my event that you RSVP'd for February 29th, I think it is, Saturday into February. We're meeting up at the Sacramento Raceway to do a meetup and drag racing event. You got to bring are you driving a Volt or a Bolt?
A Volt.
A Volt. We got to come. We got to make an epic video of you and your Volt racing me and my Raven P100D, and we'll make something hilarious out of it.
We certainly should do that. All right, man. I will see you there.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, looking forward to racing my Volt against one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful production car in the world. By the way, if you have yet not checked out the Adventures of Starman, this is the second edition. Big Oil Strikes Back. Check it out. The link is in the description of this video. And of course, you can buy them in package with the very first version. Let me know in the comment section, guys. What do you think about this? This is definitely an interesting one. And I don't know if Elon is joking or not. Let me know that as well. And by the way, I have a lot of other trips planned. As you know, I've been traveling a lot and reporting on from different locations. If you want to check out the behind the scenes videos and pictures, don't forget to follow me on the Instagram under E4Electric. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Click the subscribe button if you already have, then the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything moving forward. All right, guys, looking forward to your comments. Other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.